What is your kid walked in during 6 story? I was the kid. I was in high school, so not super young. I needed something from my parents' bathroom. I had no idea they were in their room having sex. I thought they were downstairs watching TV. Walked into the scene of my naked mother on top of my naked father. I said, "Yikes," and hightailed it out of the room. My mother came into my room a bit later and asked if I was okay. I said, "I will be if we never speak of this again." Christ, I was at my dad's as a preteen, 12-13ish, and it wasn't even nighttime. It was early evening. I was in my room and writing in my diary. I had visited a museum earlier that day with dad and his wife and forgot how the name was spelled, so I went over to their room to ask. I even knocked at the door and heard yes, which in my country is equivalent to come in when someone is knocking. So I opened the door and see my dad on top of his wife, thankfully covered waist down with a blanket. But the truly weird part was they tried to play it down like they weren't doing anything, so as I start apologizing, they just go, "No problem. What did you need?" So I play along with the general awkwardness, ask my stupid spelling question, get my answer, say thanks, quickly leave and remain in my room for the rest of the evening. I did not write that part down in my diary, as I was pretty sure I wouldn't soon forget it. Not me, but a cousin. She heard her grandma moaning, so she thought she was hurt. So she ran downstairs to check on her. Then she walked in the room and saw her grandma on top of her grandpa. She is still scarred. My wife's mom is over. She decides to be nice to me, so sends her to the park with our daughter. Then my wife orders me up to the bedroom and to strip and wait for her in the bed. I do as I'm told. Wife puts on some nice little 6-y robe thing. Thankfully nothing too kinky. More cute. Proceeds to climb into the bed. And at this point just tells me to lay back and relax and is going down on me. Just in the nick of time we hear footsteps running up the stairs. So she pulls back, throws a blanket over me and then curls up beside me like she's hugging me. Then throws her let up over me to hide my happiness. Door opens and it's our daughter, who had to come back for one more hug. Jumps up in the bed, sees us hugging and comes in for a family hug. It was so uncomfortable and weird, and then daughter takes a long time, so grandma comes up to make sure everything is okay. Walks in and just stares at us and knows immediately what is going on. Could have been much worse, but that's the one and only time before locks were put on doors. When I was 12 I stayed the weekend at my mom's co-worker's house with her 4 daughters and 1 son. The son had 2 of his friends over as well. While we were all in the basement, the son and his friends pranked us, so we ran upstairs to tell his mom. When we burst through her door, she was on the receiving end of some back shots from a gentleman caller she snuck in, lol. That scared us even more, so we ran back in the basement. Now that I think of it, I don't even think they stopped. She definitely never came down to check on us. My mother didn't find out until she went to work that Monday. I never went back over there again. Which sucks, because other than that awkward moment, I actually had a great time. We have one of those baby monitors which connect to the phone. Naturally, when we moved our son's crib from our room to his, we started sleeping with the monitor connected all through the night. Also, our bedroom became somewhat more active with him gone. One night my wife wanted to make things a bit more special, so she put on some lingerie, had some music playing and danced for me. I was half undressed with her on my lap when suddenly the loudspeakers crank and make a sound like starting a holly. As it turned, the phone and with it the baby monitor were plugged into the sound system, and our son had passed wind loud enough for monitor to pick it up, and then it got amplified by the system. So naturally, I had a laughing fit, and my poor wife wasn't best pleased about her farting son and his infantile father. My son was about 4 the first time he walked in on my husband and I. He ran out of the room screaming. I saw butts moving in the dark. Not exactly a kid, but it was when I lost my virginity. I was 17. We had just finished, both lying on our backs in the pitch black dark. Her younger brother, 3 years younger I think, walked in and said, "Hey, not my name." I was mortified. He said, "It's not my name. Go away." Was pretty awkward when I went downstairs to him and their mother sitting on the sofa. Found out the morning after. I was in the kitchen making breakfast while my So was sitting at the table playing on her phone. In walks So's daughter. "Mommy, is gimme 3 strokes pee-pee okay?" So, what? Why would you think there is something wrong with his PP? Daughter, well, I saw you kissing it last night and you kissed it for so long and gimme 3 strokes was making noise like he was in pain. So somehow turned white and red at the same time. Come on honey, let's go get dressed so we can go to Chuck E. Cheese later. As they were walking upstairs I heard her daughter say, well gimme 3 strokes be okay. I really like playing the games with him. 6 and 4-year-old at the time walked in while we were having sex. Daughter, our bedroom was locked. However, the bathroom has 2 doors, one from the hallway, one to our room, and the door to our room has to be pulled pretty hard for the latch to click. Anyways, 8 months pregnant with their sister and I was on top. We thank God keep the blankets over us because for some reason we enjoy sweating like it's a workout. Just leaned forward immediately and asked what they needed. Juice was the answer. Told them I'd be right out. They shut the door. I hopped off, pulled down and up my nightie and went to get them juice. Husband was still ready to go when I got back. It happens. Their learning how to knock on that door was fixed pretty shortly after. Not a kid but my mom. At my mother's huge house for a holiday. And all my family is there. My wife at the time was riding me and my mother does that little 2-knock thing and just opens the door. She sees what is happening. But instead of saying oops or sorry, she leaves the door open about 6 inches and just turns her head so she is focused right on my face and starts asking me questions about breakfast and what we are doing that day. I am like, do you seriously want to discuss this right now? I am laughing my ass off. She says, oh, no I suppose not, and shuts the door. Bless my freak of an ex-wife. She just kept going the whole time. Didn't stop for a second. My story is from the other side of the proverbial door. But once when I was young I was scared awake by a horrible nightmare. You old to cry but not too old to need to go and sleep in my parents' bed for the rest of the night. I picked up my favorite teddy bear and made my way to my parents' room. Just about to open the door when I heard the sounds coming from the room. Decided my nightmares would be less harrowing by walking in on them, so I covered my bear's ears and begrudgingly took myself back to bed. My girlfriend, 42, was riding me, 28. We both just came and her autistic son, 19, walks in. He comes sit on the side of the bed and starts talking about Power Rangers. Not sure if he knew what was going on. I was horrified. Lol. When I was 17, my whole family went up to our cottage. This included grandma and great grandma. There was a couple in the cottage next to us who brought their niece with them. She was like 15, but really cute. We ended up hitting it off. Mostly because I had a car and a motorcycle, dirt bike, and was like the only person on the lake near her age. After a few days of flirting and whatnot, we ended up hooking up. We made out a bit on the boat, and decided to take it into the bedroom. This was at like 4:30 in the afternoon. As we're getting frisky with one another, both buck naked, my great grandma walks into the room. Assuming I had gone in to take a nap, to let me know dinner was almost ready. Grandma saw what was going on, doggy style, and giggled. She then proceeded to tell us not to worry. She wouldn't tell anybody, and that she used to do the same thing all the time when she was younger. She died having never told anybody. Her strongly Catholic father walked in on us while she was wearing half cosplay. Yes, that's a real story. I was having sex with my ex-girlfriend when my daughter walked in at the exact moment I was finishing. My ex rolled off of me and pulled the covers over herself while I shot my daughter's brothers and sisters all over my own face on accident. Edit for clarity on that last sentence. I did a big face come on myself. Stories like these comments are why my wife and I lock the door when we go at it. When I was like 14, my family visited and stayed at my cousin and her husband's house for the holidays. Anyways, her husband had an Xbox and me being a kid I was playing on it almost religiously. So I was playing in the middle of the night and realized there was one game missing that I wanted to play and I knew it was in their room, so I get up, knock on the door. Nobody answers. I decided to take charge of the situation and open the damn door. My cousin jumped in embarrassment, her husband just sat there laughing, and I stood there shocked for like a second, saw the game, said ah there it is, took it and walked out. I just heard them laugh at it for a bit through the wall and then later heard them continuing, which was hinted to me by the bed spring squeaking. I was staying at my best friend's house when we were teenagers. His parents had a rule that he had to check in with them before bed. This would ostensibly stop us from underage drinking and smoking marijuana cigarettes. Anyways, we come home all ducked up and he goes to do his check-in. He comes back white as a ghost and after a few minutes explains that when he opened their door he just saw his dad plowing his mom at warp factor 9. Tits out all jiggly and the whole 9 yards. The next morning they came downstairs while we're eating and decide to discuss it with him right in front of me. When adults love each other they show it with physical affection blah blah blah. I was so uncomfortable I just picked a spot on the wall to stare at and eat my Fruit Loops. I was 6'8" at the time. My parents were having a rough patch and dad was cheating on my mom with a mistress. I found them at my parents' room, going at it. Haven't been able to hug or care about dad ever since. I was 3, too short to get a cup from the elevated cupboards and get a drink of water. My sister wouldn't do it for me, so I disobeyed the stay downstairs directive and have an image burned in my head of my parents having sex. It's been 30 years and it's still in my brain. Not my kids but my mum. My hubby had been working away and I had picked him up from the airport at some ungodly time in the morning. Mum had stayed over to watch the older kids so I could go to the airport. We get home. We start to get to business. Hubby always went down on me first. I'm just about there and the baby starts crying. I let the baby cry for a few minutes because I'm nearly goddamn there. Just at that moment my mum is at the doorway asking about the baby because we had stupidly left the door open. It was dark, but there was enough light coming through the window for my mum to see exactly what was going on. She kind of stood there awkwardly for a few seconds before saying something about checking the baby and me needing to reply that baby was fine. Meanwhile hubby is oblivious to it all as he was enjoying his long-awaited meal. This moment has never been thought of again until now when reading the prompt brought it all flooding back. My then girlfriend's family had just adopted a new dog which was really cute. Anyway me and her were having sex in a spooning position when her little sister burst into the room telling us look at how adorable he is. You just have to watch him as she put him on the bed next to us. My girlfriend kept telling her not right now Annan, but she just wasn't getting it. It took like 4 minutes to get her out of the room all while I was balls deep in my girlfriend. The younger sister was old enough to know what was happening but it didn't click for a while. Her face was so disappointed when that light bulb went off. TLD, our girlfriend's sister walked in to show us a puppy and wouldn't leave all while I was putting nuts to butts in the girlfriend. My girl and her abusive ex-husband had just broken up. He just started dating so I hadn't met her daughter yet. Come to find out she really struggles with being alone so anytime she wakes up, even a little bit, she wanders into her mom's room. She came to the locker door and her mom got up and put her back to bed but forgot to lock the door when she came back. Not 5 minutes later, there we are ducking and I turn around and see the living embodiment of the ring girl, just staring me down. I jump out of her mom and into the bathroom and all I hear is that my dad? Lomfeo. Thankfully she's young and has never mentioned it IA. When I was 13, I had just discovered masturbating. My mom walked in on me, and I cried. High school me did that. Was supposed to be going to my dad's for a school project, since he had all the tools and stuff. Turned around halfway there because I realized I forgot my laptop. Called my mom because I knew her BF was coming over. She didn't pick up, which in retrospect should have been my warning. Get there and open the door. All I hear is moaning and my 54-year-old mother screaming oh daddy. I silently backstopped out of the door, locked it, got back in my car and drove down the street to the park where I just sat there and felt sick and threw up a little. Sick and vomiting, you may ask? I was sick and vomiting because that's the day I learned my mother and I had the same goddamn kink. Wife and I decided to sneak off while the kids were downstairs. Middle of the day, I did the normal go down and get her off thing. Then it was my turn. As I was about to mount up, my 4-year-old started banging on the locked bedroom door. We both started laughing really hard. I couldn't get it up. She told me to just do it still. I told her it wasn't possible. Kid still banging on door. Mommy and daddy, why won't you let Emmy in? What are you doing? Not 6. But one time I walked in on my grandma changing clothes when I was in 5th grade. She was staying at our house in my room. Thanks Reddit. I had forgot about that until I saw this post. Morning 6 with my ex. We were in the spooning position with him behind me. It was roughly about 6:30 am. My son wakes up at 7 am on the dot pretty much every morning, so we thought we were in the clear. He was pounding away and I was turned to him slightly to kiss at the same time, and then when I turned back round and opened my eyes, my 3-year son was stood right next to the bed, just silent and staring. Holy duck. He didn't really know what was going on, I don't think. We had to pull apart and he got in next to me and put on Thomas the Tank Engine. Right little mood killer. Hasn't happened since, thank God. Remind me in like 2 hours when this has answers and I have the time to read them all. Still waiting on someone who actually has a story about a baby goat walking in. Not the parent but the child. I got home earlier from school and went upstairs as I wanted to put my school stuff there. The second I stood in front of my closed door, closed doors were not allowed in their house, while hearing these strange coughing noises, I knew there was something wrong. I opened the door to my room and saw my parents going at it in my goddamn bed. I didn't even know what they were doing, but I knew that I was highly disgusted by the fact that they did it in my bed. Later that day I got yelled at for asking for some fresh bed sheets and for wanting to know if this was a regular thing they did. My mom brought drinks in a couple of times when I was at it with my first GF. Didn't bother any one of us particularly. Plus it can be thirsty work. I think the overall theme of this question makes it important to remind people that Epstein didn't kill himself. I was the one that walked in. GF and I are going at it 69.9. She's on top. The door was down by my feet. Her head. All of a sudden, door swing open and in walks a 5 or 6 years old son. She freaks and covers me up as best she can. I swear, at that moment, a demon possessed her. In the deepest, most annoyed voice I ever heard from her, she asks what the hell he wanted. He said he just wanted to tell us good night. She snaps a good night back at him and tells him to get back to bed. Like many others on here, I was the kid, about 8 years old. I don't remember if I woke up in the middle of the night or if I just hadn't fallen asleep yet, but I started to hear squealing from my parents' room. It was definitely my mom, and it sounded like she was scared of something. So I went there to check that she was okay, and there was my dad on top of her, naked butt in the air, tickling her. I turned around and went back to my room. A few minutes later, my dad came in and gave me the whole adults who love each other talk. Later, when I was dating the woman who later became my wife, I tried tickling during sex and was told in no uncertain terms that it was not an effective move. I was the kid. I realized I left my stuffed toy in my parents' bathroom, and mom was in the middle of getting a shower. No big deal. I was still at a young enough age she helped me bathe before my brother was born, so I would have been not quite 3. I just wandered on in to be treated to the sight of my mom on her knees, dad in the shower with her. Yee. Luckily the glass was steamed up so I didn't get as bad an eyeful as it could have been, but I snatched up my toy and hightailed it. I was the child. I was at home and wanted a grilled cheese. I walk upstairs and knock on the door. I hear something fall and run inside. I see my mom on the floor naked and my dad pretending to sleep. I ask, "Are you okay, mommy?" My dad chuckles in his pretend sleep and my mom is as red as an apple. She nods and chuckles and said that dad would help me in a few minutes. I ask what they were doing and they said wrestling. Being the very masculine child I was, I beef my arms up and try and fling myself onto the bed. I succeed, and my dad laughed. He then realized what he was doing prior, and covers himself up to his ears with blankets. Long story short, I was the reason I didn't get a third sibling. All because I wanted a grilled cheese. My older brother's screams echoed throughout the land and I learned to knock without suffering the same fate. A little late to the party, but my 5-year-old daughter got us good. There we were, on our bed, in a 2-person human centipede configuration, both of us stark naked, and my face just buried in my wife's ass. She had had a bad dream, and comes downstairs, open our bedroom door, and there we were. Lol. Didn't even have clothes handy to cover up, or even a sheet or blanket. Super awkward. I was the one who walked in. I was in high school at a party at this guy's lake house. Pissed drunk and a little high, I was walking back to the house when I realized I didn't know the garage code. Lucky for me, I saw my buddy just sitting in his car, so I hop in the backseat and start conversing about how I'm locked out. Don't know the code. How's your night going? And he stops me and says, hey buddy, I'm getting a blowjob right now, can you just leave? Turns out the side door was unlocked. I ran in on my parents with a werewolf mask. My stepfather screamed and ran into their bathroom. I got grounded, but his face was so worth it. Our son walked in on us and we were unaware until he said, nice ass dad. He was 25 or 26. 2 Yo son walked in. We stopped. I got up and put him back to bed, then went back to bed myself. Mood killed. No more sex that night. Not during, but like 30 seconds after. This girl was at my apartment and her 5-year-old boy was sleeping in the living room. We had sexy time when we woke up in the morning. We were both lying there naked, and the boy just comes walking in. He came and sat on the bed and I thought it was weird. The girl didn't seem to be bothered one bit, thinking it wasn't a new thing for the boy to see his mom lying naked in bed with some guy.